Sigma INFJs question how they manage to defy social norms and disregard the opinions of others so readily. While some of them have come to terms with this trait, others are still unsure of its causes. These 8 factors make a Sigma INFJ an undeniable maverick. 8. As a result of their non-traditional viewpoint. Sigma INFJs are known for their daring exploration of unexplored intellectual horizons, and their passionate pushback against conventional wisdom. Their minds are not closed off by the constraints of conventional wisdom. Rather, they dance around the edges of norms, investigating concepts and viewpoints that contradict the established quo. Sigma INFJs are skilled at looking past the obvious, exploring the subtleties of circumstances, and solving difficulties with an inventiveness that defies explanation. This non-conformist way of thinking is an acceptance of intellectual autonomy rather than a random eccentricity. Sigma INFJs go through the wide world of ideas with an inquisitiveness that feeds their need for autonomous contemplation. They don't hesitate to challenge accepted wisdom or create fresh links between ideas that at first glance appear unrelated. This non-traditional way of thinking spurs innovation. Sigma INFJs don't accept pre-existing answers. Instead, they look for uncharted territory. They become trailblazers, creating new paths in industries that may have stagnated, thanks to their ability to spot linkages and patterns that others miss. 7. As a result of their strategic vision. This kind of strategic foresight involves actively exploring options rather than merely observing them. Sigma INFJs are gifted with the capacity to see patterns, predict trends, and imagine outcomes that are not readily apparent to the average person. Their brains are tactical command centers, planning actions for the here and now and setting themselves up for future success in the pages of history that are still being written. Because of their strategic insight, Sigma INFJs become leaders who are not constrained by the state of the industry. They work as future architects, sifting through complex industries with a keen sense of trends and a knack for getting themselves and their teams ahead of the curve. This insight turns into a lighthouse for people looking for guidance and direction. Relationships are not just negotiated by the INFJs in the here and now, they are invested in with an eye toward the long term, creating relationships that endure and change with life's stages. This maverick trait goes beyond individual goals. In group projects, Sigma INFJs bring concepts and a strategic perspective that improve the group's performance. Their vision sparks creativity and propels groups toward goals that go beyond short-term targets and fit into a larger, forward-looking story. 6. Because of their ability to be creative, they can come up with original concepts. Instead of only following well-traveled routes, Sigma INFJs take great pleasure in blazing new ones, boldly examining the points where fact and imagination converge, which embodies their maverick spirit. Because of their creative ability, Sigma INFJs become innovators who challenge the current quo. Instead of settling for pre-existing answers, they live on the creative process and constantly push the envelope to uncover ideas that excite and challenge. Their capacity to think beyond the apparent establishes them as thought leaders who bring new ideas to many businesses. Those around them find inspiration from their creative wellspring. Instead of repurposing ideas, Sigma INFJs foster an atmosphere that encourages invention and spreads innovation throughout their social and professional networks. This maverick trait carries over to group projects where Sigma INFJs bring ideas and a vibrant burst of inventiveness. Their distinct viewpoints are incorporated into the group's overall design, raising the result to a level above the sum of its parts. 5. As a result of their independence. In contrast to individuals who would always look for validation, Sigma INFJs approach life with a spirit of independence that distinguishes them as authentic mavericks. For Sigma INFJs, being self-sufficient is not just a choice, it is an essential part of who they are. They feel at ease in their own company and draw resilience and strength from their alone time. Their ability to think and act independently turns into a lighthouse that helps them navigate the challenges of life with a calm assurance that defies the need for outside validation. Because of their independence, Sigma INFJs become trailblazers. Instead of waiting for affirmation or approval, they move forward, self-assured in their ability to set their own path. This attribute sets them apart as leaders who are motivated by an internal compass that is in line with their values and vision rather than being influenced by what the general public thinks. Their independence results in genuine ties rather than isolation. Relationships are entered by Sigma INFJs from a position of power rather than dependency. Rather than depending on outside approval, they create relationships based on mutual respect and a sense of completion that permeates conversations. Do you see yourself as a maverick who handles social dynamics on your own as a Sigma INFJ? 4. Since their principles motivate them. Being a values-driven person is not just a decision for Sigma INFJs, it's a fundamental part of who they are. Success to them is measured not just by what they have accomplished outside of themselves, but also by how well it fits in with the values that make them who they are. This dedication turns into a driving force, assisting individuals in making choices and acting in ways that go beyond what is expected of them by society. With this values-based approach, Sigma INFJs become leaders with integrity. They base their decisions on the timeless ideals they hold dear rather than on fads or outside pressures. They are positioned as mavericks because of this trait, which makes them inspire others around them in addition to leading with authority and moral clarity. Their principles turn into a light luring other people who share their values. Mutual respect and understanding serve as the foundation for relationships formed by Sigma INFJs who connect based on common values. This dedication to principles isn't a static position, rather, it's a dynamic force that enhances their interactions and develops sincere bonds. 3. Because they don't always fit the mold of the loud stereotype. Although they don't necessarily fit the mold of the noisy, rebellious maverick, Sigma INFJs represent a more subtle kind of non-conformity. Their quiet but effective resistance is demonstrated by their unwavering dedication to original thought, honesty, and defiance of social standards that conflict with their ideals. This quiet strength is a conscious decision to let their deeds speak louder than words, not a symptom of a lack of assertiveness. The quiet determination with which Sigma INFJs manage life is a fitting match for their unwavering desire to follow their path, even if it deviates from the norm. Their capacity to subtly question accepted conventions demonstrates their non-conformity. Instead of being disruptive just for the sake of being disruptive, Sigma INFJs approach innovation with thoughtfulness and strategy, bringing fresh concepts to the table without resorting to grandiose platitudes. The depth of their relationships reflects their maverick spirit. Instead of attracting people who are drawn to their nonconformity, Sigma INFJs draw in individuals who see the quiet power that comes from remaining loyal to who they are. How do you pave your own way as a Sigma INFJ without depending on approval from others? 2. Due to their stature as powerful individuals. Because of their strategic insight and unwavering devotion to their principles, many INFJs go on to become well-known personalities. They don't just go with the flow of what's going on in the industry, they create the narrative and encourage people to imagine and strive for a future characterized by creativity and moral leadership. Their genuineness in relationships is how their impact is felt interpersonally. Without dressing up or donning masks, Sigma INFJs inspire by being authentically themselves. Others are inspired by your genuineness to embrace their own individuality and make genuine contributions to common projects. This maverick property of influence transcends interpersonal relationships. When working in groups, Sigma INFJs inspire people to realize their greatest potential by leading with a feeling of purpose. Instead than focusing on dominance, their impact is about fostering a cooperative synergy where each person feels empowered to make a significant contribution. 1. Due to their attitude of nonconformity. This nonconformist mindset is an essential part of who they are. It's not just an attitude. Sigma INFJs examine social norms critically, criticizing the status quo and scrutinizing the reasoning behind long-standing practices. Their sincere search for a more genuine and meaningful life is the true source of their revolt, not defiance for the sake of defiance. With their nonconformist mindset, Sigma INFJs become creative sparks in the workplace. They resist giving in to the demands of following conventional career paths, or fitting into predetermined roles. Rather, they carve off routes that suit their distinct talents and interests, bringing to work a new viewpoint that challenges the limitations of traditional thinking. The people who value uniqueness are drawn to them because of their non-conformity. Relationships between Sigma INFJs are forged by a common appreciation of authenticity and shared ideals rather than by conforming to social norms. Their relationships are characterized by a sincere respect of one another's individuality, unencumbered by convention. Do you also think of yourself as a maverick, as a Sigma INFJ? Why do you believe that?